this isn't walking the path. Wrong live. Welcome to I Got My Miracle. Whew. Okay. I'm having a good day. I'm super excited to be here with Tua and Eden. And they're our guests for I Got My Miracle this week. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the miracle that people get at Rythmia. And what is that miracle? That miracle is when people see who they've become and merge with their soul and heal their heart. These 3 intentions are our group intentions every week. And every week it shows up differently for everybody. But everybody does the same thing. They see some aspect of themselves that they were trying to protect or heal, or protect or shield. And in essence, their blind spot. Like, why do we act a certain way? Usually to protect ourselves from being hurt, from being rejected, from not feeling loved, from not feeling enough, or not feeling safe. When we see that racket that we're running, we merge back together with our souls. And from that place of merged together connectedness with ourselves, our higher self, and with the spirit of divine wisdom, divine beauty, we then move into a state of bliss and forgiveness for ourselves and others. So that's what we call a miracle. That's what we're talking about. And it happens every week here at Rythmia. So I got to pick these 2 amazing beings who were here this week to share with you a little bit about their experience. All right, so here we are. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so first of all, you guys have to tell me where you're from. Tell them where you're from.
We're from New Zealand. About 17 hours away from here on plane.
It was a long ride.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, but worth it. Very much worth it.
And how long have you been together?
7 months.
7 months.
7 months?
7 months.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I thought you guys were like long. That's awesome.
That's what we've been
There's a
hearing
story
since
to
we've
this.
been here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
we've
story
been
to
hearing
this.
that.
Okay, tell me the story.
Do you want
you
to?
go,
Okay.
you go.
So yeah, obviously been together 7 months, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't sound like a long time. But for both myself and Eden, it feels more like 70 years. It feels like we actually known each other for some time. So back in August of last year, I met Eden at a pub of all places, having a few beverages. And there was this one girl that caught my eye. She caught my eye. Well, basically, she was looking at me more than anything. Looking over, and it was a time when we've both gone through different things. So myself coming out of a big relationship, so 10 years from I was basically the time I was 18 all the way through to my late 20s. I was in a relationship. And similar for Eden, she's been through different things. But I guess what that taught me in particular was it taught me about myself. Taught me a lot about myself, what I liked and what I disliked.
Your previous relationship?
Previous relationship,
okay.
Yeah, previous relationship. And this was all prior to meeting Eden. And by the time I had met her, and as I've mentioned throughout this week, I'm always a learner. I'm always curious about learning about myself. And these were things I knew that in a person, if I'm going to find someone, I need these things on my checklist. It was more of a checklist to say, if I'm going to be with someone for the rest of my life, this is what it's going to require. So with meeting Eden that first night, everything just sparked. There was a lot of similarities, synchronicities, even the way in which we met that night, which I'll get Eden to explain, because there's a lot of significance behind the dates as well as the way we met. And yeah, we've been like attached at the hip ever since then, since last August.
And what had you decide to like, okay, we're going to go do ayahuasca in Costa Rica?
It's so funny. We actually talked about Rythmia a week after we met.
Really?
So he asked me about myself the first night, and I was like, what do you want to know? And he was like, just tell me about yourself. And I was like, well, there's a lot to know. So just like, what were you wanting to know exactly? And then he's just like, anything, like what's important to you and stuff. And I said, my spirituality, and like, I'm really into energy and like things like that. And then so he was like, yes, so obviously he was into it as well. And then and we are very similar on every single level. But we started talking about energy and just all of that sort of stuff and our own journeys and that, because we were both on a healing journey, very different healing journeys, 2 years prior to meeting. But it was after a week I showed him Rythmia, because I always wanted to do ayahuasca. He always wanted to do ayahuasca before, but I didn't want to go out into the jungle and do it, and I wanted to be like in a safe space. And then so I showed him the video of Rhythmia, and he really loves Graham Hancock. And so Graham Hancock was the first guy that came up on the Rhythmia video, and as soon as he saw that, he's like, "Yeah, that's us." And then so within a couple months of being together, we had booked our trip.
Wow! And what called you to, like, what was calling you to ayahuasca? Why did you want to journey?
For me, it was the deep healing. So I had a really profound spiritual awakening 5 years ago, April the 4th, which is one of the synchronicities. That's Tua's birthday. And so I actually it's a big story. I don't know if we have time to get into it, but I got the April the 4th tattooed on my back almost a year to the day prior to meeting Tua.
Okay, what?
Yeah. And then so when he told me his birthday, like I didn't really click the first night because I actually gone down to where he lived. It was only an hour and a half south of where I lived. I'd gone for a conference, and so I was out with all my uni friends that night, and that's when I saw him. And he's in the exact same field as me for work, but he wasn't actually at the conference. He was just there meeting a friend that was at the conference. And so then we just connected that night, but it was just random. So I asked him, I was like, wait, what's your birthday again? Like a few days, the next weekend I saw him, and he told me, and I was like, oh, well, I got a story for you. And then he just...
I have your birthday tattooed on my back.
Yeah, and he lost it. And then tells people, and then they think I got it after I met him.
Right.
I was like, no.
I told him that too. I was like, yeah, she tattooed after she moved.
But it was literally almost a week to the day, to the day a year prior to meeting him. And then another synchronicity, another couple pretty profound synchronicities was that the day we met, I didn't realize the significance of the date, but my brother and his girlfriend were asking me when I met Tua, and I told them it was a couple months ago. It was August the 25th. And as I was saying this, my mum was in the room, and my mum said, I should go back quickly. So the spiritual awakening that I had on April the 4th in 2019 was a week after my grandma passed, and she's the closest person that's ever passed to me. And so when I went through this healing journey, I had actually come to America. All of these things reminded my grandma. Like, it was definitely her guiding me through that, because I was not really well physically for pretty much my whole life. And then so that cleared a lot. But then, so August the 25th, I told my mom, she's like, I didn't know that was the date. And then I was like, well, yeah, why? And then she's like, that's my grandma and granddad's wedding anniversary. And my grandma and granddad have a nickname for each other, which is Pucky. I don't know why they call each other Pucky, but that's Tua's last name as well. So there's all these
synchronicities.
Yeah.
Okay, so super auspicious that you guys met. You're obviously meant to be together.
Yeah.
Because it just felt like you guys had a long history. Like observing you for the week. You sent, so, but that's super cool. And then you're here at Rythmia. You arrive at Rythmia.
Yeah.
And the synchronicities that got you here. What did you find? Tell me about the resort, some of the amenities. What did you like? The people, the food. What were the things that really highlighted for you in your experience?
I think for me, there was actually the whole wraparound service, the facilities, the food, or the kai, which is what we call it back home in New Zealand. Kai is food, all very healthy. But I guess what really got me over the line was the people. The helpers, just so beautiful. Because as you know, as we go through these different experiences, people come with different issues, different traumas, and the way in which they react is sort of unknown for a lot of people. So the way in which the helpers, like the staff, even yourself, John, able to really make this place a very safe environment to be able to come do ayahuasca. But I guess that's not the only thing why you come here for. There's actually more to it. And as I found out during the whole week through the different classes, there was little gems that kept popping up throughout each class. I was like, that's sort of a hit for me in terms of understanding myself a bit more. And just to go back, like that's why I really come, was because I'm a curious person. I always like to learn, always want to learn more and dig deeper into myself. So that's it in a nutshell for me, was the wraparound services and the people, the helpers, as well as all the other I guess I can call them friends now, sort of lifelong friends that we had, that we met here, just made it that much more special.
Right, the people that you were here with. But I also think it was super important that you said is the classes.
Yeah.
The ceremonies are amazing, and then you have the support of the classes that really work together for this program. It's really well put together, and you guys were outstanding because you took advantage of everything. You were like, I'm in it. So I want to ask too, I want to ask you a question because you mentioned kai is what you call food at home, but that's the Maori language.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to share with you a little bit about the Maori, like, and your shirt. Tell me about your shirt.
Yeah, so there's yes, obviously I'm Māori, I'm indigenous to New Zealand, and we've had an interesting history, sort of settling, I guess, one of the last places on earth that was yet to be found, which was New Zealand, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I think this goes back into the 1300s. So in terms of timeline wise, it's not a great timeline of history in Aotearoa, but our stories even go back even further. So we've got links to Tahiti, like Eastern Polynesia, as well as with a lot of other Polynesian cousins. So Samoan,
Yes.
Tongans, Rarotongans, we're really closely related. And in terms of my shirt, this is sort of in response to, it's a movement that's currently happening back home in New Zealand in response to the current government that we have. So what we have in New Zealand is called a treaty settlement process, and that's sort of a process of repatriation or acknowledgement of colonisation to the Māori people, because it has been hard for a lot of our people around colonisation. I think this sort of can be related to many indigenous cultures that have gone through the effects and impacts of colonisation. So if you look to America, a lot of the Native American cousins there sort of have gone through similar experiences. And for us in New Zealand, that process of I guess the apology, the treaty settlement to acknowledge the wrongs began in the 1970s.
Wow.
So what are we now? We're like sort of 50 years plus in that process. And there was a lot of acknowledgements from the government to say, yes, we did wrong. And the way in which they acknowledged that was through a financial sort of payment to acknowledge, like, yes, we took the land. There were so many resources that come with that. Here's like a financial contribution to sort of bring your people back up to the start line. And that's what the treaty settlement process was to bring Māori, our indigenous people, to the start line, because sort of in all the different statistics, whether it's education, crime, everything, like Māori are at the lowest, they're the lowest
Right.
denominator and everything. So it was sort of to help reconcile a lot of that. And the other part to a treaty settlement as well, two other parts. There's an apology to acknowledge, yeah, we were wrong. And then there was the return of different assets, whether there was land, even businesses, they were part of that as well. So there was a whole different range of ways in which it was reversed. And what this movement currently is focused on is to say that with the current government, we're not going to go back 50 years because we've made 50 years of progress. And what the current government are trying to do is peel back a lot of that progress. So trying to suppress Māori language, trying to wipe out Māori rights in different ways, in very sneaky ways, in which the government are trying to do. So that's it in a nutshell. I could sort of sit here forever.
This is where he works in the area. That's why he's very
And you
passionate.
both work in the same.
Yeah, both lawyers. He's in Māori rights and interests, and I work in the community for a Kaupapa Māori services team.
So you're both lawyers.
Both lawyers.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Both both Māori as well. I just don't have the tan that he gets. Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Māori too. Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to bring that into the conversation because you mentioned to me earlier that there's a lot of healing around that for you in ceremony. Was that correct? Did I remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
For me.
Okay.
For me. Yeah,
All right.
I'm happy to talk about
Yes,
that too.
yeah.
So I might start from the first night and
Yeah.
sort of work my way through just to paint the picture a bit better. So I guess on the first night going through ceremony, what I experienced was in a nutshell, love and peace. So I sort of got I got the pinters, I got the consultant. I was talking to an elf.
I want to say pintas are visions that you get on the medicine, and it's like kaleidoscope colors or tribal designs or sacred geometry, or it could be like little movies. And then consultas are when something is talking to you, and your consulta was with an elf.
Yeah,
Okay.
with an elf. So from a lot of that, I felt just love and peace. So I felt very at peace and happy with where I was at, knowing that this was the experience I had. And then sort of moving forward to the next day, to the Tuesday night, was a complete 180. So it went from love and peace to anger, to mistrust, to fear, to a lot of hatred as well. And sort of when I was in that process, there was a lot that had happened, and I didn't really comprehend or could remember everything. There was only real small parts in which I could remember, and thankfully to my beautiful partner there, she was whilst she wasn't allowed to help, she was helping in her way. So she was sort of listening to some of the things I was saying, what I was yelling, and she put two and two together because she knows the things that trigger me, and she was able to say, well, these are the things that you were saying and what you were going through, and I think this is what it was. So in terms of the anger, in terms of the mistrust, the fear and hatred, a lot of it stems from my current work environment and things to do with the current government in terms of eroding Māori rights and interests. So that's where a lot of the anger and hatred had come from. And
how did you transform that, or how did the medicine help you transform that?
It reflected to me the way in which it made me feel on the inside. So, and I was projecting that out. So I was like real angry. Are we allowed to swear on here? Or?
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
There were a lot of fuck yous that night. I become known as the Mr. Fuck You Man. And it was interesting because I think for me too, like I'm someone who I'm super open and vulnerable to these things, but it actually impacted me a little bit as I woke up the next day because it did have an impact on my ego. Like I was embarrassed a bit. But on the flip side of that as well, I felt super light. I was like, well, I actually feel real good. Like when I was talking with Eden, and we were saying, well, these are the things you were saying, and this is what it stems from. I was trying to think, do those things still trigger me? And I was like really trying to think about it, and I was like, they don't.
So like they triggered you before, but after that night, you released it, and they don't trigger you anymore.
Yeah. It's like it's gone. Wow. That feeling of anger, hatred, was all sort of just dissipated through that night. And talking to a lot of the other boys who went through similar things on the final night, I guess what they were saying to me was thank you to being open and vulnerable to like just get it all out. Because I don't think they were I'm not too sure if they were wanting to see that, but they were wanting something to trigger within themselves so they could release as well.
It's really part of how beautiful the medicine is, right? Is that everything is working in this harmony. And you just being you opened up something for someone else that might have been similar but not the same. But around, and I heard a lot today in the sharing in the closing group, a lot of the women were thanking the men, like for being open and all the healing that the men did, and to see like that there are safe men in the world. So just to wrap up, what would you say that shift is for you? Obviously a shift from internalized hatred that you were projecting out, but is there something else that you wanted to share around your journey, your miracle, your insight, what's changed?
Yep. And probably the other thing is just forgiveness for myself for feeling like that and projecting it onto other people, as well as forgiving other people who have projected things onto me in certain ways.
That's so beautiful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Tua. Eden, so I want to hear about your journey. What was your transformation this week?
Mine was interesting. Like, it's funny what they say, you come here for a certain reason. It's not necessarily the reason you leave with. Kind of was, but kind of wasn't. So like I came for the purposes of healing my body. I have had quite a few chronic illnesses growing up ever since started when I was just before 10 years old. So for nearly 20 years, pretty much, that I've had chronic pain. And then, as I said, the spiritual journey that I started 5 years ago healed a lot of that. Still problems though. And that's why I felt called to ayahuasca, because I do a lot of energy work. I see a lot of healers and stuff, which have definitely helped me like a lot. But it was just, I felt like I hit a wall, like, and I hit a plateau, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And I kind of felt strongly like, there's only so much other people can do for you. You need to do some stuff for yourself. And I knew what ayahuasca did and how you can connect. And I felt like I really needed that. And so I was willing to take that step because I was like, I'm kind of sick of feeling like this. Like my body just was tired. Like it was just annoying to be like that all the time. So I came with the purposes of clearing, because I know I've heard ayahuasca can heal anything from cancer to addiction and everything in between. And then so what I came for was, that purpose. But it's funny, like the first couple nights I got really frustrated because everyone was having these amazing experiences, seeing all the pints and everything like that. And I wasn't. I vomited a couple of times, purged, both ways, quite a bit. But then I was frustrated, and so like the first night was fine because I know that's a lot of clearing that happens on that first night. But then when that same thing happened the second night, and then we came to closing at the end of the night, everyone was in this whole loving, happy experience, and I was like, I just can't relate. Like I'm frustrated, but what I said before, the classes were so amazing because, especially what you said, that the medicine reflects back to you what you need to know, and it doesn't create anything. Yeah, it just shows that reflection. And just so talking with you and talking with the shamans and stuff, it's like ayahuasca isn't there to create, like, make things bad for you. It's there to bring up what's already inside of you. So if you're, sick, you'll get all of that sickness coming up and stuff. And so that was a big thing. It was showing me I was frustrated. And I had high expectations for healing because I noticed when I go to healers and I don't get the healing that I want, I get annoyed and I'm frustrated with my body a lot because it's not doing what it should be doing. I get, especially with the gut area, and I know that's your second brain. And so my gut has been the biggest problem in my life. And then so after the second night, I was feeling that, but then I found a bit more like I had intuitively feeling the Wednesday was going to be better for me, and there was a lot of feminine energy, and I'm quite a masculine person, like by nature, just my personality and like with work and everything. So dropping into my feminine has been quite a big lesson for me over the past few years, which I'm very happy with progress, but yeah, big lesson. And so the feminine energy night was amazing. The women were amazing. And that was the first time I was saying in the closing group, first time I utilized the helpers because they all were amazing, but I kind of thought they were there if you were going through it, like what Till was saying he went through on the Tuesday. I was like, yeah, you maybe need the helpers, but I was like, not going through a difficult experience, so I was just a bit frustrated. However, I made use of the helpers, 3 helpers actually, particular on actually 4 helpers on the third night, yeah, all for different things, and they were amazing. And like just the conversations that we had, and it was more, especially one of the lead shamans, she was saying like you can't. Because I was saying like I'm just annoyed and stuff. I cleared a lot that night, and I found a peace like inside. It was more like I came with the intention of getting rid of the pain, whereas I definitely cleared a lot, and I can feel my stomach being a lot better now. But I came with the acceptance, and like she said, like you just got to accept it. And I know that you can't. And as I was saying in class today, like I had self-love. I found that over time, but it wasn't unconditional. I thought it was, kind of realized it wasn't, because I'm like, if I was healthy, then I'd be happy. Or if this was the case, then I'd be happy. But you've got to find that unconditional self-love first, and then the healing will follow.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
But like that statement is cliche, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so true. And
Yeah.
until you internalize that statement, like, so I just want to acknowledge the power of what you just said, right? It's cliche because it's true.
Yeah.
And to have that realization internalized is powerful. I mean, do you feel that?
Yeah.
I mean, acknowledge yourself, because that's a huge,
definitely.
and to acknowledge the if then thinking, right? Like, well, if I was healthy, then I'd be happy.
Yeah,
If
that's
I
what you're
was-
saying in class. Yeah,
It
definitely.
was so powerful.
Yeah, that was a big thing. And so I was realizing also, like, and I think that unconditional self-love came from the acceptance. And like, I can't remember if it was you or someone, one of the teachers spoke about radical self-acceptance. Like no matter what's going on, you accept and you love yourself no matter what. And so I felt that for the first time. And because usually I'm just, my stomach's pissing me off. It's just annoying. And I was saying I felt myself like lying in the bed, in the mattress towards the end of the night on the feminine night. And I was like stroking my stomach like it was okay. Like it's a healthy space now. Like you're going to be fine. And I never had really connected. Like I always had a massive disconnect with mind and body because I felt like my body was betraying me. I felt like there was no connection. As much as my mind was getting clear, my body was getting stuck. And I was like, well, shouldn't everything be working in alignment? But I know how energy works. I understand the law of attraction. And I know that I was creating a lot of the stuff in my own head and making it worse. But it was just hard for me to be the opposite because I've had it for so long and I don't actually remember a time where I was fully healthy. So like it's something I've never experienced. It's just like someone that's maybe never had love before doesn't know what love actually is. And so I didn't really know what health really was, kind of thing for me. So I think that was a big thing, and having peace with that. And now I just feel acceptance with where I'm at. I feel better and I feel like it's going to be all good. Yeah.
So the mindset shift,
Yeah.
and rewriting the narrative
Yeah.
around your relationship to your stomach,
Yeah.
to your gut,
Yeah.
your relationship to illness and health,
Yeah.
your relationship to like peace and acceptance.
Yeah. And there's also something I was going to say was, it kind of escaped me. I'll come back to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So overall, you both feel like after 4 nights of ayahuasca,
Mm.
and 3 breathwork ceremonies, right? Or 2. You guys have done 2.
I think we got a third.
Third is tonight.
We've been to all of
Yeah.
them, so is it 3 yet?
So tonight will be the 3rd. You came
Oh,
Sunday.
Yeah,
and
came
you're leaving
Sunday. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So 2 breath work, 3rd breath work. So breath work so important, right, to this process. Don't you agree?
Oh yes, I remember what I was going to say.
Yes.
It was that. Sorry, the thing was that like with the healing and stuff, I also had peace because I think it's something you said in class as well. It's like the issues are actually your strengths, and so like what I went through is actually made me so strong and resilient, and it's given me so much like empathy for people, and it's created like I feel so strong in myself, and I have felt like that for ages, but it's because I went through such a difficult time,
Right.
and it's something I felt like I had no control over, and so now I 100%, I know this for a fact, I would not be the person I am today had I not dealt with it. That's been my like issue in life, and
That
it's
is
been good.
so powerful,
Mm.
right? The thing that we think is our biggest detriment becomes our greatest ally and aid,
Yeah.
in so many ways when we
Mm.
rewrite the narrative.
Yes.
And that's why I commented on your shirt, because sovereignty is, first of all, the ability to place your awareness, place your awareness where you want to place it.
Yeah.
Like to think about what you want to think about. That's sovereign.
Yeah.
2 is to be able to write affirmative narratives, write affirmative stories for your life. That your story of illness became a story of victory. Your story of an indigenous harm, indigenous wound, became a story of sovereignty. This is the turning our victim stories into victory stories. And then finally, the third part of sovereignty is being able to take those affirmative narratives into action, into life. So you've done you're in action in life, in your careers, in that area. And what you just shared, both of you, is so powerful because you've rewritten narratives and healed, released things that were blocking you. And it sounds like you both feel lighter, happier, more connected, probably more connected to each other.
Yeah,
100%.
definitely.
Yeah.
I guess one of the other things I'd like to add there too, John, is sort of when you have that peace and clarity, you can see who you are and what you're meant to do. So, because I've always had this thing within me, like I've been born to do something, lead Māori people, my people home in Waikato, towards the light, to help sort of continue on this path that we started back in 1970. And this sort of goes back for generations for me. So my whole family's been involved in this, and it's been passed from my grandfather to my father to now me, and my daughter's all part of this as well. So it's sort of that continuum. And when you have inner peace within yourself, makes that path that much easier to walk. Even though it's not an easy path to walk, you can still do it with clarity, which makes things 100% easier. And this is sort of one of my other revelations coming to rythmia was actually to bring that inner peace back to me, because I've always had love and light in my life. Like I love my whānau, I love my family, I love Eden. She's one of my biggest teachers as well. But that's sort of what I've been able to realize here at rythmia, is to bring that inner peace, and everything just is like, whilst the world's sort of in chaos in some respects, but I think it's that polarity, what Eden talks about and what you talked about in class, is sort of what you look at and how actually beautiful the world is. So when you sort of come to that realization, particularly for me, it's made everything a bit easier to see.
Beautifully said, brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. I was just saying to Toilet before we came here, because he gets real triggered about the government and everything. And I know it's because it's so important to him, and it's in his work, and it affects his work. Like the stuff he was working on for like 2-3 years prior to the government coming into action in October last year. Millions, was it billions or millions? $180 billion spent on this thing that was going to help all of our country, not just Māori people. It was going to help everyone, completely wiped by this government. And that's just one of many things that they've done, just very problematic. But I said to I could see him getting triggered, but I was like, have you ever looked at it from the perspective of, you get so pissed off because it's actually, feeling like hate for the government. But what I see is actually is because of the love you feel for our people. And that's what you're getting so triggered by, is because you're not able to, implement that and share that love, because you're getting stopped by this like powerful force. And so it's like, maybe seeing as hate, but I kind of see it as also love is driving that, and then now he sees it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So powerful. Thank you,
Yeah.
Eden.
Yeah.
Tua, thank you. Thank you both.
Thank
so
you.
grateful, so grateful. And thank you all for joining us. Before we go, there were some comments, and every once in a while I try to look over
Yeah.
and see, but let's see. Love your shirt, brah. To Eden, says Andrea Abedi. I don't know if you know
Oh,
her.
yeah,
Yes,
she's
Andrea,
yes.
yes.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
one of our friends from Rythmia we met this
She was
week.
here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she lives
Laura
today.
saying it's very interesting. William, by meeting you, my vision became real. I understand most people. And then someone, Andrea says, love you guys. Okay.
Love you too,
Beautiful.
Andrea.
Beautiful comments. Thank you both. Thank you both.
Thank
Thank you both
you.
so
Thank you
much.
too.
Thank you all for joining us. So grateful that you popped in. And if you have any questions about Rythmia, there's a right there. There's a number right there. And
Yes, I'd
you can
say
call that
call.
number and find out a little bit more. Peace and richest blessings. Thank you.
Thank you.